You're listening to the Christian Indie Artists and Songwriters Podcast, the place where faith, music, and life intersect. We exist to help Christian indie artists and songwriters just like you get songs heard. Hey, I'm here with my friend Leah from Virtue Design, coming to us live from Nashville, Tennessee. How are things in Nashville this morning, Leah?
Hey, they're good. Not rainy, which is a rare thing around Nashville, so I'll take
Yeah,
it. I love it.
that's great. Well, you know, before the way we connected is through mutual friend Ross King, who we've
Yeah,
actually had on the show before. An
awesome.
amazing songwriter and human being in
hmm
general. So I'm excited to, hear about Virtue. And like we were saying before, like there's so many artists and songwriters out there looking for great website solutions, and
Absolutely.
you have created that exact thing. So before we get into that, I'd love to hear like how you kind of got involved in the music industry in the beginning.
hmm well, I married into it, so I'm actually not very musically inclined at all, but I do find learning about it fascinating. So my husband is a writer producer. I know Ross through him. They're both signed at Centricity in Nashville, so Centricity Publishing. And so I kind of just didn't mean to get involved, if that makes sense. I met my
Yeah.
husband and I thought I don't want to date a musician. And then he's really an anomaly of like very left brain, right brained. He's just as business minded as he is creative. And I'm
Mm.
like very practical and type A. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can do the beautiful thing about artists is they're so creative. But I was like, oh man, I don't know how I would mesh well with that. The like let's just go do it. I'm like, well, what about the plan? But so I've just learned so much from him, and I really enjoy the business side of it all because I keep thinking that I'm done. I'm not done learning, but I'm like, there's not more. And I'm like, oh gosh, there's more. And I sometimes feel like the more I learn, the less I know. Like I don't even
Mm.
understand. Um, but we both work from home, and so I'll go and listen to songs at the end of the day, or if I'm honest, I can hear them while they're happening because we share a wall,
Yeah.
which doesn't actually bother me. I thought it might, but so really just through him and a lot of our friends are artists, or we have friends who work on the business side as well. So when in Nashville, it's a lot of music jobs, a lot of music creative people. So definitely just my daily life now.
Yeah, that's great. And so, you come from, you mentioned a background like in the design world. Is it specifically in website stuff, or was it more artistic, or like what was that like for you kind of coming into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually came from an HR side.
Okay.
So I was working a desk job I really disliked. And, I'm driving an hour each way in Nashville traffic to this job I hate. This is kind of where web design started for me. And
Yeah.
then I'm watching my husband get to go travel and, for music opportunities. But then while he's out on the road, he'll still be producing because he can work wherever. And I just started to get a little jealous and I started to think like, I don't want to do this forever. So I've always loved things that are beautiful, I guess that I could say.
Mm.
So like home design, aesthetic, love all that. But I didn't quite have like a formal education in design. But
Yeah.
when I started really disliking my corporate job, we thought, okay, well, what can I learn? What skills do I have that we can, and skills do I currently have that then we can apply to a career that gives me a better lifestyle? And one of my husband's best friends he's a little bit older than us, but he has been in web design for 15 years. And they actually both came to me and were like, I think you'd be really great at web design. And I was like,
Mm.
what? Me? And so I kind of like mulled over it. I'm like, I don't know. And I was like, well, what do I have to lose? Let me try. And so I got into it and I really started to love it. I felt like it kind of combined both worlds of getting to enjoy the creative design side of it. And then I also had the side of me that enjoyed HR to some level of, maybe the systems that were the same every time that might drive someone crazy. I found those comforting. So
Yeah.
it really lets me do both. And I just love it now. And now I get to work with artists, which is like I really get to do the creative side.
Mm.
Um, opposed to, working with your local auto mechanic type business. So,
Yeah. No, that's great.
which
And
I do as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I have my BA in business administration with a
Nice.
human resources side too. So, but I didn't,
Totally.
at the time I was in the corporate side, doing that thing, trying to go up that ladder. And then as God started developing things, I was a worship pastor for 6.5 years, which I used the creative and the administrative side, like probably the administrative side more, honestly, so I love that you
Yeah.
have that same, and sound like your husband as well, like you guys are
Hmm.
partnered, but not only did you get the creative side there, like the web side, but then also you're kind of getting to see what the artist looks like from the inside. I mean, you guys are living that together. So I'm sure that
Yeah.
that informed, your direction, especially as, like you said, a lot of your friends
Hmm.
are in the industry. So when did that kind of all start to materialize? We're like, hey, like, I feel like this is what the thing is, and these are the people that I can serve. Like, how did it kind of come to be from an idea to like, we're doing this thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just as I was working with clients and trying to figure out, like who's who do I want to work with and who do I want to serve. Like one of my big things with Virtue in general is that my goal is to serve your vision and whatever that is for you, and just to provide you with something that's all about you and what you're doing. And so I took a step back and I'm like, who am I around all the time? I'm like, artists come to my house 4 or 5 days a week, all the time. They're my friends. They're not, I was just like, I think I was hearing all the time, especially independent artists who aren't signed with a label, of just all the things they have to keep track of, whether it's like, okay, writing the music, releasing the music, that's one thing. And then you got your social media and all these things. And I just kept thinking, like, this sounds so overwhelming. And I thought, like, how can I serve my friends to take something off of their plate that they don't have to think about? But, when you're an independent artist, things are expensive and you're footing the bill for everything. And I thought, well, I want it to be affordable as well. So that price uh, doesn't inhibit them from having a website. Because I'd hear all the time, I had to pay for artwork and I got to pay to produce a song and all these things. And I'm like, well, the website's going to be the last thing if they have to go pay agency prices, or I don't know. There just weren't many options. And so I saw a need, and then I thought, well, if I basically thought, how can I lower my prices? Because typically my
Hmm.
rates are higher. And I was like, well, if I create a few templates based on what all label artists are doing, then I should be able to offer a low cost model where they still get everything that they need. Because I was shocked when I started researching, all the websites for huge artists were so simple. They could have as large of a site as they want, and they were maybe one page, two-page, a one page in a store. Like, they were so simple. And I thought, okay, well, let's see. Let me try to. I basically created it without knowing if it was gonna be. I thought, well, here's a need, I'll do it. And then now it's actually become very, like, people really want to hear about it, and
Hmm.
it's starting to take off. So it's been really exciting probably in the last 6 months, because I think I made it a year ago, or at least did the layouts a year ago. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Now it's fun. I'm like working with clients, with artists, and I love it.
That's great. And what it just occurred to me is you created these really cool templates, and then as more and more people use them, then they'll become more and more sought after. It'll be like, that's the look
Hmm.
that people are going for because they see it become
Yeah.
synonymous with that thing. So, I'd love for you to kind of just walk through, what Virtue is. I know we touched on it, and
Yeah.
just the nitty gritty, all the technical stuff, right? The admin stuff that we love. So, like, let people know
Hmm.
just all about it.
Yeah, so Virtue is my web design company. It's just myself. I work with a wide array of clients, usually small businesses, and then I made an offshoot, more of like it's a smaller service slash kind of like a product, that's Virtue Bands and Artists, and that's specifically tailored to bands and artists. If I do have a client that's more corporate, that wouldn't fit for them type of. deal. I don't quite have a theme based model for the other client or other industries, but are you kind of like thinking like if I were to have somebody come to me, like what that would look like? Is that what you wanted me to
Yeah,
explain?
like if someone were to
Yeah.
come across, or they're in need of a website as an artist or songwriter, like
Hmm.
what sets you apart from just the general everything out there? Because there's so much information. I
Oh,
love that.
totally.
Give people like an actual option that we're like, hey, this works for you as an artist and songwriter specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, so what would happen if you came to me? So unlike Wix or Squarespace, Bandzoogle, something like that, you're having to then build it yourself and maintain it yourself. So I've created a one-stop shop web service for you. So you come to me, you're releasing a song. What we'll do is I will maintain it post launch. So if you need something updated, you just email me. I do it for you. That's one less thing you have to think about. But so you would come to me, pick one of the layouts, and then we would actually put in your fonts, colors, images, and you'd be shocked. It's unless you're really looking for it, the websites look so different based on
Hmm.
your branding that you'd hardly even know that they were a layout. But they all have the same components. They just are structured a little bit differently. So you're going to have a section to highlight whether you're releasing a single, an EP, an album, and as you're having new singles, we'll just swap out the cover art. If you're touring, we can link that up with bands in town so that people can see, okay, where are they touring at? Um, if you have a video you want to highlight, we can do that as well. The big thing is capturing emails for subscribers so that you continue to grow your email list. And then you have,
Hmm.
if you want to give any sort of update to your fans, you have all the information right there and you can get that easily. But basically there's the requirement from if you're a band or an artist that I need for you is pretty minimal. I need about a paragraph of a description about you. And then the rest of the stuff is highlighting all of your music platforms, getting some cover arts, maybe a few pieces of, or a few photographs. And then ongoing, really, if you needed something updated, you email me. So again, it's just to take something off of your plate. I host the sites, I update them to make sure they're secured from anyone trying to log in and hack. I'm checking sites every single day. So I'm basically your nerd on command to help you with websites. So you got a web question, here I am. And my biggest thing is customer service. You just be shocked at the number one thing that I'm told is, oh, like my old web designer just dropped off the face of the earth. I can't get a hold of them. I don't know where they are. My goal is, hey, I want to be attentive. I want to be communicating with you in a timely manner and just make it easy for you. I mean, so there's just too many moving parts to being an artist to have to add one more complicated thing. And
Yeah.
so I tried to, if you go to my the webpage for bands and artists, it really lays out all the steps. So I have here's 1, 2, 3, 4, what's going to happen, any questions, Q and A's, and again, you can talk to me, and if you have any specific questions, no matter what. But I just wanted to simplify it, and it's pretty easy. They're all one-page sites, and yeah, you don't. There's not a ton required from you because sometimes if you have a site done, it's like, oh, this should be pretty simple. And then you get into it with a designer or building it yourself, and you're like, oh, whoa, okay, I got in over
Yeah.
my head here. So definitely just try to make it easier.
No, that's great. And I know that there's so many people out there, asking about websites. Do they need websites?
Hmm.
And I think people ask if they need it because they don't want to go through what it takes in their mind to do that. Because like you
Yeah,
said, building your
absolutely.
own website is like you're like, I'm doing this, and then it's like, where's a hang up? There's a hang up. Oh, I'm not doing this, and so
Yeah,
people are, it's like, I'll just use social media, but I'm sure you agree with this, having a website, a .com is a major legitimizer, not only just for the public, but
yeah,
also for yourself, like, hey, I've
totally.
spent the energy and time and finance to actually have a .com. So with that, like, nerdy question, domain wise, are people just purchasing their
Mhm.
domain and then porting that to you? Like, how does that process work?
Yeah, so really the only responsibility outside of what I, oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
Oh, nothing. I said I was, yeah, just about the domain, like
Okay.
getting that domain landed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have the artist or band purchase the domain. Usually, usually use GoDaddy for that. There's so many
Yep.
different
Yeah.
websites you could use, whatever. But they purchase it, and I ask for the login. But aside from that, and making sure that you renew that annually, or sometimes you can purchase 3 years at a time, whatever. It's usually about $14 a year. If it's more than that, I'd say just try to find a different variation of it, because sometimes it'll be like, this domain is $2,000. It's like, please don't
Yeah.
pay
Don't
that.
do that
You
one.
don't need to pay that. Yeah,
No.
don't do that one. Maybe you can put music on at the end, or something.
Right.
But so I'll have them purchase that, and then all the other responsibilities or cost would be I would take care of. Yeah. So,
That's great. Yeah, because it's very simple. Anyone out there could have a pro website
hmm
that's actually being maintained, so that, like you said, you don't
hmm
have to worry about that as an artist. You can actually just focus on,
yeah.
now I saw on the site, like you're
hmm
able to link to stores as well, merchandise stores.
hmm Yeah, so I won't do with the artists and bands website. I won't do the infrastructure of a site on the actual site, but I can link to
Right.
it. So it'll say
Yeah.
store and then do third party. I just think it's cleanest, or I like using companies who that is their sole focus, is to,
Hmm.
their e-commerce. They handle all the taxes. They just make it
Yeah.
simpler. But yeah, just link to whatever you're using. If you don't have a store, I'll just hide that section of the website. And then if you decide at some point, hey, I didn't have one, but now I have one, we'll just add it back. So
That's great flexibility there.
yeah.
So
hmm
you mentioned capturing email addresses. I'd love for you to kind of
Yeah.
talk about that and like strategies that you've given to artists and bands on how they can do that. Because we all know that, email marketing I mean, I've still seen stats. It's still like the best way to sell and offer products to your warm leads. So I'd love your
hmm
just 2 cents and thought on, creating
Yeah.
lead magnets as an artist.
Yeah, I like to do two methods with specifically websites. So whether like the footer of your website just has a capture, it's like subscribe now. Most of the, if not all of the layouts have on the top menu says subscribe, jumps you down to the bottom of the page where you can put in your email. And then the other option that is effective as well is to have, after 3 seconds that they're on your site, or after they scroll to a certain point, that it pops up with a subscribe box as well. It's just preference. I find that I feel like sometimes I like to resist what people want me to do. So if a box pops up, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So like if you want a little bit more of like a soft approach to it, having it just on your page at all times, whether it's in the middle, the bottom. I think if you have somebody who is sought after, as a listener who sought after your website, they clearly like you already, or they want to like
Mhm.
you. So if they
Yeah.
have an opportunity to say, well, yeah, I want to learn more, or if you want to say, like, you want to send them something like, hey, to get a sneak peek of blah blah blah, subscribe, something like a teaser is helpful too,
Hmm.
because they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I want to see that. So
Yeah.
those are usually what the two approaches that I take with it.
And so as they subscribe, you're able to handle like that side of it too, like you're collecting, or is that like a MailChimp type thing, or like how does that work once you're getting email addresses
Yeah,
in? Is that so how does that process
so
go?
typically I'll integrate whatever marketing service you're using, whether it's MailChimp, or there's a long list of them. I keep learning about. I'm
Yeah.
like, I didn't even know that one was one, but there is one.
Yeah.
So I don't maintain the mail list, but I can link it to whatever you want. So say
Gotcha.
initially you just have your general mailing list, but then you're like, okay, well, I really want to do this promotion for my upcoming EP. That's when we can link it to anything specific. Or
Right.
say you wanted two different captures on your, when I say captures, like email captures, so that maybe on your main page you want your general email list, but then you want a pop up that's for your specialized list, we could do that too.
Yeah.
So I can
Cool.
tailor it in that way, but like creating the email campaigns, I don't quite do.
Right. But it's all coming back to the same source. So if someone is generating,
Yeah.
lead magnets or whatever through MailChimp, you're capturing through website, and that's just adding to your MailChimp list. So that's really
Yeah. And
simplifying
on
that
the
process.
site, it keeps a log of every single email that's logged in. So say
Okay.
if there ever was some sort of disconnect between MailChimp and then the back end of your website, you have an entire log of every single time an email's been submitted, which is great, which I like. I've never quite had it disconnect, but just peace of mind of knowing it's in two places. I'm like, if I'm gonna, I don't know, I like having more than one source to rely on.
Oh, for sure. I
I feel
mean,
like
I
I'm
know
my
that
husband
we
talking about backing up songs.
totally. I mean, with my
Yeah.
wife and pictures, like we have the iCloud, we have the computer, we have the external drive. It's like there's so many, because everything is just
Oh
digital,
yeah.
so we can't touch anything. So
Uh-huh.
if it's saved in multiple
Mm-hmm.
places, it's just peace of mind for sure. So yeah, I love
Oh
that.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of, I feel like it's such a simplified solution, to make, like, if you're an artist and you're looking for a website and you feel like that's overwhelming, or even if you don't feel like it's overwhelming, you just feel like, I don't know if I can do that, like how to make it, because I've worked with artists as well. And like, that'll be a major hang up to where like months and months later, they're
Mm-hmm.
like still working the website, not sure what to do, but really all they need to do is contact you. And so does that
Yeah.
typically start with like a call, or is it through email? Or how do you, like, what's the first step of the process if people want to reach out to you?
Yeah. So it kind of depends on where you are in the decision process. If you want to learn more and talk with me more, it would be scheduling a phone call and answering any questions you might have, giving you more information. If you're like, hey, I'm ready to go, then on my website, if you fill out or it's bands.virtuedesign.co, there's a contact form that will immediately go to me. And then it'll prompt you to sign up. And then as soon as you sign up, so the cost of the bands and artists theme, it's $49 a month, no hidden fees. You can cancel at any time. The only stipulation with canceling is that your site's taken down and you're not given, like, that doesn't continue on, but there's no upfront fee, nothing else. Everything is in that. And so as soon as, you've signed up, you've picked a theme, which is all on this form, then we just start talking about, okay, hey, like, do you have fonts that you like? If you don't, then I'll kind of get an idea of, well, what do you like? And this is all on the preliminary document. And from there, I propose to you a style guide. So basically, a style guide, I would use whether they're your images or images with the feel that you're wanting. I'll provide, hey, this is what your heading text is going to look like. This is what your paragraph text is going to look like. Here are the colors we're going to use, examples of photos, and just make sure you like the overall vibe. And if you don't, you're like, hey, I actually think I might want a different font. That's the time when I would then send you a revision of like, hey, well, do you like this font better? And we'll make sure you're happy with everything. And as soon as you give the green light on that, the time from when you don't have a site to when you do is super quick. So
Yeah.
I'd say it's a couple of weeks max, which
Okay.
like if I have a business that comes to work with me, I'd say it's minimum 6 weeks. So the turnaround is really quick. So yeah.
That's great. That simple. So if someone currently has a website, they're sort of trudging through that. All they would need to do is basically, deal with that, cancel that, whatever that is, but then just give you access to the domain, and that's it, right? So, have
Mm-hmm.
you worked with
Yep.
that a bunch where people are bringing a new, current website over to Virtue?
Yeah. So if you have a current website, what I do is I build it on a test site. So I use a temporary domain, has nothing to do with your current site. Your site will stay live until we're ready to switch it over. So what I'll do is I'll build on the temporary site, send it to
Mhm.
you, make sure we're happy with it, make revisions, and then as soon as we're ready, basically you'll have the files from the old site if you ever need them, which it's very, very rare that you ever would. And then we'll make your domain show your temporary site. So if you have a current site, just know that it'll stay up, and it'll be the new site when we're ready to be. So they really function totally separately, which is I like, because you don't have to even think about your current site going down, anything like that. On day of launch, it goes down for a couple of hours maximum, and then your new site is live. So we usually try to do that on an off time, maybe in the evening when it's, maybe your visitors wouldn't be looking on a Sunday night. It kind of depends, whatever
Yeah.
time frame
Yeah.
works for you. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I mean, I feel like, basically you find your domain name if you don't already have one, $14 ish, for a year or less if you do a longer plan, and then $50 a month or $49 a
Yeah.
month for full hosting for a pro website for anyone, that you don't have to worry about it. Leah handles all that for you. So that's exciting. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there excited about that. So I would definitely recommend reaching out to Leah. What's the best way for people to connect with you? Is like the website and you personally? So how can people find you?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. You can reach out to me on social media directly through the website. My email is just Leah@Virtue Design if you have any questions. I typically start with some sort of written communication and then go from there, have phone calls. But really, any of those, if you want to there's a contact form on my main website. Any of those really work. And I didn't mention this earlier, but this is more of like the nerdy techie side of things. But
Yeah.
what I also do with maintaining your site is, so I create daily backups of the website. So say yesterday we updated your cover art, there's going to be a backup of the site. And then there are plugins that go onto a website, and plugins are kind of like apps per se. So if I wanted to add Instagram to your website, that would be a plugin. If I wanted to add, doing MailChimp, that's a plugin. And then there's all kinds of security and more like less fun plugins that are more like firewall and blocking, spam, all of that. But I make sure that those are up to date, because what happens is developers release what they updated, and then there's an entire industry, which is a bummer, of people who then use those cracks in websites to then go hack websites. So I secure them so that your website won't be hacked. And then if God forbid something did happen, we have a backup to restore it. So I basically take away the fear of like, well, what happens to my site? If anything ever happens, email me, call me, I'll take care of it. We'll restore it. So I'm just trying to, it's like we were talking about backing up all the time, but making sure you have things secured. That's what I'm doing with the site as well.
Well, it's so important, because it's literally like security for your home, like this is the main hub for people. Social media and stuff is great, but again, like we all know, we don't own that. When they change the algorithm, they change the algorithm. We own our own website. So to know that it's safe and secure, you can rest easy. Like that's a huge peace of mind. And I know, and especially as people are, worried about the creative process of that and not messing anything up, like you don't have to really deal with that. And it's such a small investment that, you could easily pay for your website hosting for a year with like 1 gig, so it's not like, and I love that you're offering that, serving people well in that way. Cause like you said, independent artists are having to do everything on their own. So this is like, you really get the, and too, as you're growing, you're pitching yourself, you're pitching your EPK, whatever, like to have the .com or whatever it is like such an important part of your presentation of your artistry. So yeah, I'm glad that you're doing this, and I really appreciated, you taking time to explain Virtue today. And just any other closing thoughts you have?
I guess if somebody is kind of on the fence about it, I mean, just reach out. I'm happy to give a dialogue. One of my biggest things in life, and then in web design as well, is I want you to get the best fit for you. And if you just have questions, I'd love to see if this could help you out. I mean, my goal is literally to let you focus on what you're great at and take something off your plate. So reach out and we can just chat and see if it's a good fit.
Awesome. Well, before we go, I always love to pray over everybody before we go. So I'm going to pray
I
for you.
appreciate it.
God, thank you so much for Leah. Thank you so much for this great idea, this great solution for, artists out there, that there's so many things, especially in the Christian indie artists and songwriters area, that we're focused on and can be distractions potentially from what we're called to do, God. So we thank you that, there's things like this out there through you putting this on Leah's heart, that it's one less thing to worry about, and it's professional, and it's safe and secure, and it's all the things that ultimately will bring people to you as the music goes out and they come back to this hub, this website that is really important in this current society and culture we're in, God. So we thank you for this opportunity to hear, and anybody who's interested, and just be encouraged to know that this is a great option for them as they are furthering themselves in their career, God. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
We want to help reach as many Christian indie artists and songwriters as possible, and one way we can do that is with your help. So if you could take a minute and leave us a review on iTunes, that would be so appreciated. This is how the iTunes algorithm will push this content out to more and more Christian indie artists and songwriters. So like I said, if you could just take a couple seconds, leave us a review, that would be so awesome, means so much to us, and we would really appreciate it.